Am I the a-hole for shouting at a teacher after she took my sea ice in class? Editor's note: CI, cochlear implants. Before getting into this, a little background information is needed. I, 17M, was born deaf to a hearing family. My family and I sign at home, but I need to speak while at school as the high school I go to isn't the most accessible or disability-friendly. When I was 9, my parents paid for me to get a surgery to receive cochlear implants, CIs, which I only really use when at school or out with my hearing friends that don't sign. I attend a mainstream school, and as I stated, it isn't disability-friendly. Now, onto the situation at hand. Yesterday, I was wearing a beanie in class. Now, usually that wouldn't be a problem when it is my normal teacher, but yesterday we had a sub. The beanie I was wearing was covering the transmitter of my CI, while the part that hooks onto my ear was noticeable. I know that there are quite a lot of kids that tend to get into trouble because they'd wear AirPods or whatever devices people use nowadays for music that aren't headphones, mainly because those aren't allowed in classes. Usually, my teachers are aware of my CI and know that it in fact is not a music device, so I never have any trouble, but this was a sub-teacher. She wasn't aware of my CIs at first. Keep in mind that at first, while doing some assignments, this sub, who we'll call Mrs. K, came up to my desk. I don't know what exactly she thought my CIs were, but she didn't like them. Originally, she questioned me and told me to remove them immediately, or she'd have to write me up. I explained to her, made her very aware that what I was wearing was for me to hear her, and even took off my beanie to show her. She pretty much called BS and attempted to take my CIs off. This was an absolute no-no. I, on instinct, slapped her hands away and stood up before starting to lecture her, telling her she has no right to try and take my CIs. After this little stir, I sat back down, thinking that the situation was most likely over. I was wrong. A little bit afterwards, she came up from behind me and literally snatched my CIs from off my head. After this, I got up yet again and started yelling at this lady, telling her that she is not allowed to take assistive devices and threatened to report her. I know in this situation, me getting physical wasn't the right response, but I was scared as hell that she'd break them, so I grabbed her hands and tried to get my CIs back, which I didn't. Of course, after that she called the principal in, and me having no clue what the hell was being said, I just straight up told the principal that she took my CIs and isn't giving them back. In the end, I got my CIs back, but obviously due to me putting my hands on a staff member, I got suspended, and my principal said I was in the wrong for the situation. My dad is threatening to report this sub-teacher to the administration. So am I the a-hole? Relevant comments. Consistent, tap, 3480. What I'm most disappointed in upon hearing this whole story. How did none of this young man's classmates step up for him, try to back him up, or try to help speak for him? If I had been in that class, I'd have been suspended too if I saw someone, faculty or not, try to forcibly take an assistive device from a person with a disability, because crap would have got physical for me too, and I would not have felt bad about it during or after the fact like this nice young man does. Is this how we are institutionalizing our young men and women today? See something egregiously wrong happen to a person, but do nothing because you could get a mark on your record? For shame. NTA, but literally everyone else in this story besides your dad is. Especially the 10-20-ish peers of yours that sat by to see you get treated in such an appalling manner and did nothing to help you. OOP. I don't think anyone really knew how to respond to the situation at the moment it happened. I'm also not one of the most liked, as I'm perceived as different from everyone else. And while I do have a couple friends in that class, they aren't necessarily the bold stand-up-to-a-teacher type. They like to keep to themselves, which I think is completely fine. Also, as I stated, you can get written up. Write-ups are pretty easy to get in this school, and I don't think anyone wanted one that day for standing up to a sub-teacher. While I would have appreciated some backup, I would have felt horrible if someone got in trouble for a situation they had nothing to do with. Bulky, measurement 684. What did the principal say was the appropriate action that you should have taken when the sub grabbed your CIs out of your ears? OOP. She told me that I shouldn't have touched the teacher, that even though what happened wasn't pleasant, I still had no right. She informed me that if something like this happened again, I should go get her or another staff member rather than cause a big scene and disrupt the classroom's learning environment. I don't remember everything word for word, but it was something along those lines. I do agree with the principal that I definitely could have handled the situation better. I'm not one to react physically or on emotions. I regret that I grabbed the teacher because that, for me, was completely out of line. At that moment, though, I only cared about getting my cochlears back. When asked by a downvoted commenter if this was racially motivated, well, if you're bringing race into this, I would say the substitute is white or maybe Mexican. I'm not sure exactly. While I'm Black/Asian. I don't think race was the issue in this situation. Some people in the comments were saying that I'm probably bigger than this substitute, which I was. So that might be a reason for her to feel threatened in some sort of way. Top comment. Cassandra Glow _ NTA. You clearly explained to the teacher what your cochlear implants were, a medical assistive device, not earbuds, and she still chose to physically remove them from your body twice. That's not just ableist. That's a violation of your rights and potentially even assault. Yes, you touched her hands, but it was a defensive reaction after she invaded your personal space and grabbed essential medical equipment. You were scared, and rightfully so. CIs are expensive and critical to your functioning in that environment. The school's response to suspend you is completely backwards. Your dad is absolutely right to report her. This isn't just about you. It's about ensuring no other disabled student has to go through that again. OOP updates the next day, same post. Small update. Okay, so I've been trying to read all the comments, but there has been a lot, so bear with me, please. I also haven't been focused on replying to comments as much as I've been focused on reading them, so I will start replying to comments. This update isn't necessarily on what my parents plan on doing, as I haven't figured that out yet, so this will most likely be a short update. First off, I've seen some people talk about how this is a brand new account with no previous history. The reason for that is because this isn't my main account. I made this one for this post so that I could keep myself anonymous as my friends and some outer family know of my actual account. It's kind of a I don't want this to be traced back to me thing. Second, I've seen a lot of people asking for my school name and where I live. I will say right now that that will be a no. For my own safety, and also as a minor, sharing that kind of information scares me and might even put me at risk, I don't know. But also, as I said above, I want to keep myself anonymous, that being for my own safety and my family's safety. Third, a couple comments mentioned how I'm probably bigger and stronger than the sub, so I was most likely perceived as intimidating. This topic actually made me think about that, so for a little information on that. I'm 5 feet 9 inches and I do in fact work out, so I do understand where some people are coming from when they say I might be intimidating to the sub. Though this information probably doesn't mean much, there you go. Next, my main purpose for posting this was to get some advice as to what I should do more than if I was the a-hole. In some areas of the situation, I do see that I was in the wrong, while some other areas I don't think I was wrong. But sometimes your mind can play tricks on you and make you think you did too much. One thing I do know about this whole thing is that my parents are going to be confronting the administration and report the teacher, and from my parents reading your comments, the principal as well, also they're going to try and get my suspension removed from my record. I also know that my parents are done with me going to a mainstream school, because believe it or not, I've dealt with plenty of similar situations like this with students rather than teachers, and my parents are pretty sick of it. Me as well. So they want me to go to a deaf high school, whether all this hopefully won't be a problem. But the issue with that is that there isn't a deaf school in the area I live in, so they're wanting to move. Though with the economy we live in, I don't know how well that will work out. If you have any questions, please let me know. This update was longer than I anticipated, even though it isn't necessarily an update, but rather a quick informative thing about some things I've been seeing in the comments. I'll make sure to give an actual update once I find out what my parents plan on doing regarding lawsuits and all that. Update 2, same post. So my parents talked to me yesterday about what they plan on doing, but I didn't want to update immediately cause I kind of just wanted to process the information first and hang out with my friends. So, for starters, a lot of your guys' comments were helpful, so I thank you all for your advice and other helpful suggestions. It helped my parents come up with some ideas of what to do and how to proceed for the future. To start off, my parents do in fact plan on taking legal action against the sub and the school. Legal actions against the substitute because of what she did, and then legal actions against the school for not reprimanding her, as well as continuing to let me be bullied throughout the 3 years I've attended this school, regardless of how many times we've reported it. I have a couple of my friends that will give input about what happened as they were there and saw what happened, so hopefully there isn't any chances of the substitute working at that school again. Don't get mad at my friends for not sticking up for me. My friends are very quiet and don't like to confront things. With further education, my parents don't want me going to mainstream schools anymore, so they are pulling me out of the school I've been going to, and then I'm going to do some online work until we move to an area with a deaf school. I've gotten some information from people about some deaf schools in the US, so my parents have been looking into those schools. Please, if you have any other information/suggestions about deaf schools within the US, let me know because that'd be great. Due to us taking legal action, this post will most likely be taken down shortly, so I do apologize if this gets deleted. Even though this is an alternate account, I don't want to take any chances with anything getting led back to me or being used against me. This will most likely be my last update. Again, thank you all for the advice you've given and the support. I really appreciate it.